3 months old?
He was 3 months old.
When we started doing this.
Yes. I'm not very dressed up.
You're not very dressed up. You're not supposed to be. You're in a motor coach just chilling as we go down the interstate. But it's going to be I think it's going to be a fun 8 days. But you were the ones that kind of pushed, you and Logan were the ones pushing me to do this. I wanted to stay in my safe, comfortable studio. You two were pushing me. Let's go out and have some fun. Let's go do some stuff. Let's take the cameras and show people the country.
I figured you needed to get out a little bit.
I was getting old just sitting there, wasn't I?
Yeah.
And Logan, he's never been, well, he's been to D.C., but he was just a few months old when we took him to the White House. Remember that? So now he'll actually remember it.
Yes, he definitely will remember it now. I don't think he remembered it back then.
No, he didn't. He was only, how old was he?
I think he was only 3 or 4 months old when we went.
Wow.
Yes.
So there we go. And we got the dogs, as you can see. We don't travel without them. It's a must. They go with us. They go everywhere with us. Dolly, are you being a good girl? No, you're not? Or are you being a good girl? Yes, you're being a good girl. She's trying. She's never done a motor coach. All right, your little black schnauzer, she's 11, so she's done the motor coach thing. But Dolly, this is all new to her. Yeah, that's right, Dolly. Put your face right in front of the camera. That's right. She has no clue, does she? All right. And so tonight we got David Pine and Leo Holman. David Pine and Leo Holman are going to be my guests tonight. We're going to talk about a wide-ranging set of topics, including Mike Walls being gone. I guess the deal's falling apart between Russia and Ukraine. There's not going to be a deal, apparently. President Trump's like, okay, guys, I'm kind of walking away from this. We've got some news coming out of Germany that's very concerning. Let's see what else we got. I got some information about Marjorie Taylor Greene, what she's putting out on social media in the last several hours. Want to read some of that. Talk about a Supreme Court case related to religious liberty, parental authority. And we've got a lot to talk about tonight with David Pine and Leo Holman. So we haven't had dinner. So at some point, after we get this broadcast done, and you guys are enjoying it, because we are pre-taping it, we're going to finish it just barely in time for us to get it on the air. And then we're going to pull over somewhere and get something to eat and continue on down the road. So be praying. Don't you dare eat that. I don't know what those flowers are. You can't eat flowers. Come on. I have no idea what that is. That can't be good for you. Why do you eat everything? She's horrible about eating everything. You cannot eat these flowers. I have no I have no clue.
You will eat it.
Flowers can be poisonous to dogs.
They can.
No, you can't do that. You are a mess. Like having a 2-year-old, less than 2-year-old. But then we're. Here. Oh yes, thank you, Logan. Logan says take them. Yeah. There you go. See, you made us move the flowers, Dolly. So then we'll stop and get a bite to eat, then get back on the road and make it hopefully close to our destination where we're going to be filming tomorrow, which we'll tell them all about tomorrow night after we've been there. And other than that, we're just going to ask people to pray for safe travels, right?
Definitely. Yes.
What are you looking forward to the most? Without saying where we're going tomorrow.
Probably getting to D.C. and going to the White House.
That should be interesting. Right, to have press passes and go in?
Yeah.
Because we really have no idea what to expect, do we?
Right, we don't. No, it'll be interesting.
What do you think, Logan? What are you most interested in?
Probably the White House.
He said probably the White House. I mean, you have no idea who's going to be walking around, right? No idea. We have some interviews set up. We have no idea really who we're going to run into, so this should be interesting. All right. Well, have the dogs been being good?
They've been all right. Not great, but not bad.
What have they been doing?
Just Dolly's a little hyper, so.
Well, she's 11 months old. She's never been on a motor coach, so she's a little hyper excited tonight, but she'll make it.
She was lying down a few minutes ago, so that's good.
That's good. All right. When you do get on here, you do get where you just want to go to sleep, don't you? It kind of rocks you to sleep.
Kind of, yeah.
If I wasn't doing the show, I would have just, that's what I would have done. I would just, Logan, you wanted to go to bed. Logan's like, I can go to bed right now. We have bunk beds. So you can just crawl in your own bunk, pull the curtain, go to sleep. So we have a great driver, by the way. He's very conservative. We've never met this driver. Very conservative guy. Very, very much in agreement with our network. He was pretty cool. He's checked us out. He knew one of our other drivers that we've used a lot, so he knew him. But we got a great driver, so I think we're going to have a great 8 days. Pearl wants to say hello. Hello, Pearl. Hello, Dolly. All right, well, let's do that. Let's take a break. Oh, boy, Dolly, you're going to get up on the table. Come on. Let's take a break. and we'll go to a commercial break, and we'll come back. We'll have David Pine, and then we're going to have Leo Holman. And I think we're going to put you guys back behind the door back there. We wanted you to come out and say hello, but we're going to put you back.
I need to go back
behind the door, so I don't have to worry about your disruptions. So there you go. All right. Melissa's a trooper. She did not want to come on camera. She's like, I'm not dressed for it. I said, you're not supposed to be dressed for it. We're traveling.
Yeah, you just forced me to come up here right now, right?
Yeah. I had a ball cap on. And was not dressed up at all when I was helping load the motor coach. And I came out, showered, and all ready to go in a suit. And the driver said, man alive, if I didn't know it was you, I wouldn't have even recognized
you. Really said that?
Yeah, he's like, I didn't even, he looks, I know. It's like when I get up in the morning and go, I got to do something. So I look terrible in the morning. I do look better. You clean up nice, Brandon. You clean up. See, you hear the dogs back there going at it? Oh, my word. All right. Well, let's take a quick break, come back, and we'll get to David Pine and then a great conversation with Leo Holman. All right?
All right.
All right. We'll be right back.
True beauty isn't applied. It's nourished from within. Bella Grace Elixir, a luxurious, scientifically crafted blend designed to restore radiance, vitality, and strength at a cellular level. At the heart of Bella Grace Elixir lies cat's claw, a powerful herb from the Amazon known for its ability to control inflammation and protect collagen. With Verisol collagen peptides, it goes beyond the surface, stimulating your body's natural collagen production to reduce fine lines, improve skin elasticity, and promote real, visible change. Bella Grace Elixir doesn't stop at collagen. It includes astaxanthin, one of nature's most powerful antioxidants. 6,000 times stronger than vitamin C, astaxanthin protects your skin from harmful UV rays and environmental stress, while locking in hydration and promoting a radiant, youthful glow. Experience the power of nature with Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Discover the science behind Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Read powerful testimonials from doctors and real customers who've experienced life-changing results, and explore other wellness products from Bella Grace. Bella Grace Elixir is more than just a product. It's a solution. Visit melissahousebg.com today.
All right, joining me now is David Pine. We got news we have to cover. The Trump administration has officially ended its effort to negotiate a peace deal with Russia and Ukraine. Oh, wow. David, you've got several tweets on this. I know you have also just released a Substack on it. Tell us about it, please.
Well, yes, this was somewhat expected that President Trump would decide to pull out of the peace negotiations. He'd certainly been warning about that. He'd been warning. Rubio had said that this week was the deadline. Trump had reportedly told Zelensky that May 6th was the deadline. So it finally came through today. Was reported by the State Department, and. It's not exactly what we were expecting, because what happened is the minerals deal got signed on April 30th, and Ukraine is reporting that the U.S. is committed to provide to keep selling arms to Ukraine over the next 10 years. It's very similar to a 10-year bilateral security agreement that Biden negotiated with Zelensky last year. And so it seems that President Trump has decided to adopt, Biden's war as his own if he's wanting to continue U.S. military involvement in the conflict, and in terms of, U.S. troops and contractors and intelligence personnel helping Ukraine fight Russia directly.
So where does this leave us, David? I mean, President Trump is just going to walk away? Is he just going to say, okay, guys, you're on your own? What, I mean, he's, again, the art of the deal. What's the deal he's, pushing for by just doing this?
Well, it's very disappointing because, I think he could have had Zelensky on the ropes. He could have told Zelensky, we're going to cut off your Starlink access if you don't accept our peace framework, and he did none of that. He failed to pressure Zelensky to make any concessions at all. The only concession that Zelensky made was for a 30-day conditional ceasefire, but no conditions on territory. He rejected outright any cessions of Ukrainian territory to Russia, despite the fact that Russia's controlled those territories for 3 years straight. So there's as the 2003 counteroffensive proved, there's no hope for Ukraine to retake those territories. So as far as the end game, I don't think, honestly, I think Trump's lost. I don't think he has an end game. I think he's on autopilot right now because he hasn't been able to figure out how to successfully end the conflict through a negotiated peace agreement. And unfortunately, I think what this does is it gives a green light. I've been worrying that this will give a green light to Russia to stage a massive spring-summer offensive that could begin as early as mid-May after the Victory Day parade that they're going to have with Chinese and probably North Korean troops in Moscow, which will be attended by Xi Jinping, Brazilian President Lula da Silva, and various other world leaders. And by the way, Zelensky made a veiled threat to potentially attack the Victory Day celebrations, which would expose not only civilians to drone or missile attacks from Ukraine, but also potentially Xi Jinping and Putin himself, and that would provoke massive retaliation on the part of Russia. Putin would not stand for that. Of course, he's likely deployed massive missile defenses to prevent that from occurring, but any attempt to do that on the part of Zelensky would result in the complete leveling of the presidential palace in Kyiv and Ukrainian Ministry of Defense building as well, likely with a Reshenkov or other Russian hypersonic missiles.
Yeah, this is not looking good. This is not looking good at all. And now we've got word that Russia is committed to helping Iran with their nuclear power program. I read that this morning. Have you read that?
I haven't. Of course, Iran has had their Bushehr nuclear reactor. The first nuclear reactor was Russian designed, set up with Russian help. So I think Russian help for at least their nuclear reactor program has been a very long-standing, I think, over the past 20 or so years. North Korea, I think, is probably the prime helper of the Iranian nuclear weapons program. As we've discussed on your previous shows, North Korea likely allowed Iran to test one of its nuclear weapons in its underground nuclear facility some years ago.
And then I hear somebody put out today, and I saw you responded to it. Somebody said that, here someone said, Zelensky to Americans, we're fighting for your rights and values, justice for our own. We're fighting for Russians, your enemy, not your friends. We want to have this understanding in the U.S. We are partners. And someone else responded, Russians are not our enemy. I'm not here to defend Putin, but why would we want to make Russia our enemy? Two superpowers should be trying to make peace, not become enemies and provoking war. Ronald Reagan showed us that with Gorbachev. And I don't know if you saw my interview with Kurt Weldon the other night. That was an hour and 10 minutes. I don't know if you guys can see it, but he talked about the fact that basically, he said George W. Bush wasn't in charge of his own administration, that he was flying on Air Force One, and he was invited up to the Oval Office on the top of the 747, and he was being asked by President Bush about Putin. And, because I guess it was the former head of the KGB, the then FSB, the former head of the KGB comes to Washington, Kurt said, sat down in his office, visited with him, and said, Putin wants to work a deal with you guys. He wants to have our countries get along. We're even willing to get approval from you when it comes to selling weapons or things to your enemies. I guess Weldon made a comment, we don't like it when you sell these weapons to our enemies. And, well, maybe we can work a deal where we don't do that unless you approve, where you sign off. So it sounded like they were wanting this, relationship and to have an understanding. And Kurt Weldon, former Congressman Kurt Weldon, described on my show the other night that there seemed to be no interest by the George W. Bush White House. That he said it was Rumsfeld, it was Cheney, it was Condoleezza Rice. They were not interested in this, and now we're in the mess that we're in. So I'm sure President Trump understands the same thing. He ran on not going to war. He was able to do that in his first 4 years, the first term, no war. But now we've got this situation, and Russia, as you just said, bringing in Xi Jinping to Moscow, bringing in other countries. Now this relationship, it seems that we're pushing them, more and more to that direction, working with Iran. But I guess this is what the neocons, the war hawks were wanting, right, David?
Absolutely. It's exactly what they're wanting. And, as you're likely aware, Mike Waltz was recently dismissed as Trump's national security advisor. I just saw one article as we were prepping to air that Marco Rubio may be asked to remain as interim national security advisor and Secretary of State for at least 6 months. So that would give the neocons full control of both of those power ministries, which really are probably the most responsible for setting, U.S. national security and foreign policy. So that's something I'm hoping that we don't see. But what we need is someone new to fill the national security advisor position. As I wrote in my article just published about an hour ago, there's a lot of great choices. There's General Flynn. General Mike Flynn probably is the top of my list. He would be an outstanding national security advisor. There's also Michael Anton, who currently serves as Director of Policy Planning at the Department of State. He would be an outstanding choice. He's basically served as Witkoff's deputy in negotiating deals with Russia and Iran. And then there's also, Jason Miller is actually another Axios article is reporting that he is the top choice in the event that he wants it. He likely would get it, and I think he likely will want it. So all of those choices would be outstanding picks, but we definitely don't want neocons to retain control of that position because they've given Trump so much bad advice. I think they're probably Rubio and Waltz are likely the ones that have told Trump, don't threaten Zelensky, threaten Russia instead. Despite the fact that Zelensky is the main problem, an obstacle to peace.
David, what about Taiwan? I mean, what does this tell you? Anything? What is China looking at in this whole scenario? Is it emboldening them? Is the fact that the Trump administration can't get a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine, is that emboldening China toward Taiwan?
It absolutely is. So Trump had a brilliant plan, which was to break up the Sino-Russian alliance with a peace deal between Russia and the U.S. and Ukraine. And that is likely shelved if we keep, obviously if we continue our involvement in the war in Ukraine, if we continue selling arms to Ukraine, we're still essentially operating as Russia's enemy. And that's exactly what President Trump hoped to avoid, to overcome. So if on the other hand, if we were to pull out of Ukraine, then I think we could continue to move forward with, some kind of geostrategic partnership with Russia to neutralize our alliance with China, their alliance with China. But that's exactly what China has been worried about. China has reportedly expressed concern. They actually summoned, I think it was Lavrov, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, after a meeting, one of the U.S., I think it was the February 18th meeting between Rubio and Lavrov in Riyadh. They summoned Lavrov to Beijing to explain rumors that that Russia might agree to become a strategic partner with the U.S. and essentially do that to counter China. And Lavrov, of course, assured them that was not the case. But what this does essentially is, China, I think, they've been waiting for the opportune moment to blockade Taiwan. And in my estimation, the opportune moment would be if Russia was conducting a massive offensive and Britain and France were begging the U.S. to provide air support. for the tens of thousands of troops being sent into Ukraine to start World War III in Eastern Europe. At the same time, Trump is considering bombing Iran if peace talks, a peace deal isn't achieved by later this month, as I think it's unlikely that it will occur.
Wow. I think he's done talking. You think, Logan? I just lost him for a second. All right. We're on the road, folks, and so every now and then the communication gets a little touchy, but I think he finished talking, and I've caught everything he said. I want to push you to his Substack, folks, dpine.substack.com, dpine.substack.com. It's really important you guys go read his latest Substack and spread this around because, again, this is not the calm, cool analysis you're getting from a lot of the folks in the neocon uniparty movement. So again, very important article by David Pine tonight. Mike Walls is out. You now hear that Secretary Marco Rubio may be asked to be the National Security Advisor and Secretary of State for an extended period on being the National Security Advisor. Again, he's been one of the guys that, we were concerned about. I appreciate many things he's had to say about the illegals here and they're not being here to create problems. And if you are, you're out. That, you can come over here with a student visa, go to school, study, do your homework. You can't behave yourself, you're out. I've appreciated his comments on religious liberty and freedom. But again, we want people that are really thinking about not going to war. So let's pray that Senator Marco Rubio gives some of the gives sound advice and doesn't fall into the trap. Because again, we were saying the other night, I can't remember who it was I was interviewing. Jason Lewis, former Congressman Jason Lewis. And he said, do these guys not realize how horrific war is? The neocons, some of them, Lindsey Graham and others, I think, that are pushing for war. Do they, you got Mark Levin, Sean Hannity, I think a lot of these guys pushing for some strike on Iran. Do they not realize how horrific war is? And of course, we've talked about here the power grid, EMP, cyber hacking. I mean, you can't just start wars with countries like this that are so aligned with other countries, not to mention that have their own EMP weapons and the ability for cyber hacking, and think that you can do this and there's not going to be some kind of ramifications for the country. Have we thought about that? Have these guys thought about that? I don't know that they have. Are they willing to see maybe massive terrorist attacks in the country or attacks on critical infrastructure that cost lives? So we need everybody to pray that Marco Rubio gives him the kind of advice that we've been hearing from David Pine on these broadcasts as well as on his Substack. So please go to dpine.substack.com. Closing comment, David?
Well, I can't agree with you more. Everyone, we need to contact all of our members of Congress and do everything we can to persuade them that world war is not the answer, that we do need peace with Russia, that a peace with Russia could bring tremendous security benefits for the United States because it would eliminate the Russian conventional nuclear threat, not just to the U.S., but potentially to our European partners and NATO as well. And it could deter China from, risking war with the U.S. Over Taiwan. So, this is a critical moment in our history that, if we make the right decisions, we could be more secure than we have been in since the end of the Cold War. But if we make the wrong decisions, we could easily find ourselves in a massive cyber or even EMP war that could be devastating for the United States.
David Pine checking in tonight as we're on the road, literally traffic on the interstate. dpine.substack.com. David, thanks for being with us, and as always, your great analysis and common sense. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, Brian. You're a great patriot. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. It's a team effort. Thank you, David. David Pine checking in tonight, folks, as we're literally going down the interstate, headed toward the nation's capital, looking to bring you some great programming this week. And again, folks, if you appreciate what we're doing and the expense that we are going to go there to spend 8 days traveling, we appreciate your support. Again, we're going to go there and capture a lot of great stuff. And I look forward to, as we've been to places, telling you, hey, here's where we just went today, or here's where we're going to be filming and broadcasting a lot this week. People are asking, are you going to be off the whole week? No, we're going to be broadcasting. And I look forward, as we finish sites and places to tell you where we just went, what we just saw, who we just interviewed, what we just did. And some of it, of course, we're going to bring to you right away. Other things, we're going to take back the footage of these historic sites and turn them into beautiful 30-minute, highly graphic, highly professional graphics, and lots of graphics, lots of graphics. Our team is really good with that kind of thing. Taking the footage we're going to get, I'll do some voiceovers with the B-roll footage we end up getting, and I'll do some historic voiceover so that when we're done, we have like a 30-minute documentary on this historic site and that historic site, and we got it all mapped out. I have a notebook full of things I've printed off on various historical sites that I've been reading, researching, memorizing, so I can go to those sites and then report, and then we'll go back home, turn those into amazing documentaries. As we are really looking, folks, to create kind of a our own version of the History Channel. We're going to be doing more historical programming and reports and special short format documentaries, some an hour, some 30 minutes. And these, they'll be timeless. We'll be able to air these for years to come, so your children, your grandchildren can all learn about very important historic stuff and learn about patriotism and the values that have made America great, and the men and women that have made America great. So this is a very important trip, and what we get out of it will be able to last many, many years. So again, thank you for your support at worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. Please consider going there now, making a contribution. We can check from the road. It's so encouraging, by the way, when I check every day or every night to see that you are supporting these. And many of you are leaving little notes. This is for the DC trip. Thank you for doing this. Logan talked to one of our viewers last night who said, I wish I could be a fly on the wall for all of this. Well, in one sense, you guys, you are. This is what you're seeing tonight. We're going to do this with you all week. We're going to bring you on the road with us. We're going to show you kind of behind the scenes, traveling in a motor coach with Logan and Melissa and 3 dogs. We had another cameraman that was going to go with us, but we decided to cut the budget. We decided to save a few $1,000s and cut the budget, and so Logan and I are going to be handling most of the camera work this weekend and this week, these 8 days. We got a nice little handheld camera. These, you can't believe how small these things are and the broadcast quality of them. And Logan's teaching me how to use it. I'll be grabbing some of the footage and the B-roll footage that I'll be voicing over later. So we did cut a camera guy out. So it's Melissa and Logan and myself and a driver, and we're going to show, and 3 dogs, and we'll share. I'll share with you what it's like to travel on the road for 8 days. We've done this. Logan grew up doing it. Logan was 8 weeks old when we had him in a pack and play. We got our first motor coach. He was 8 weeks old. And he was raised in a pack and play. When the slide out would be put out, we'd stop. Or going down the road, he was in a car seat, obviously. But he was raised on the road. He doesn't remember it until he got older. But he has good memories, he says. All my kids have good memories. A lot of them wish they could be here. My other 2 kids are very jealous.
days, here I am, less pain in my back. I knew that something was going on, so I just kept eating half a teaspoon of this paste a day. I was booked to go for surgery in Victoria where they were going to do what they call a talc treatment. They went in there to have a look, saw something they never seen before, took 11 sites, sent them away for biopsy. I got the news back. Everything was benign. They just did not know what to make of it. Everything was absolutely clean. And I've tried dieting all my life because I'm a diabetic. If it's a coincidence or not, I don't know. My blood sugar started dropping. My weight started falling off. Here I am, no longer requiring insulin, and I was taking 88 units a day of insulin. You eat just about what I want in moderation, and I have no elevated sugar levels, and I feel fabulous.
People, you hear the word cancer, and they want you to be instilled with fear. Cancer is nothing but a profound failure of the immune system. And what happened with Tom Harper is the phytoplankton is microscopic. It's God's microscopic food. And the Gadatiana is the most nutritionally comprehensive strain of phytoplankton in the world. David Hunter studied phytoplankton for 20 years because he worked for Tom Harper and he was there in person and witnessed Tom's recovery. It's about getting pure nutrition inside your cells. And what happens, your body balances again or goes back to homeostasis. And when your body is pH balanced or in homeostasis, disease can't grow. It is literally microscopic, pure single cell plant food with protein and omega-3 fatty acids, omega-6 fatty acids, with amino acids and vitamins and minerals. One scoop a day. There's 90 billion plant cells in here just for everyday nutrition and energy and, cognitive support, because this is God's pure nutrition.
Go to melissahousegpa.com today. Discover the science and learn more about the wonderful benefits of Gadatana phytoplankton. That's melissahousegpa.com. melissahousegpa.com.
Joining me now, as we're on the road, is our buddy Leo Holman. Leo, welcome. Glad you're with us as we haul down the interstate for Brandon House Live tonight on our way to the nation's capital.
Yeah, good to be along for the ride.
Without having to be along for the ride, right?
Right.
Wow. We got some news tonight that just came in. Ed Martin, acting attorney, U.S. District Attorney for D.C., who we hope will be confirmed. Everyone should be calling their member of the U.S. Senate. They have two members of the U.S. Senate, by the way. What's that number again, Logan? 202-224-3121. So everybody should make a note of that, please, and call your two U.S. senators on Monday. Say, please vote to confirm Ed Martin. 202-224-3121. Again, area code 202-224-3121. We got several things we want to talk to Leo about, but one right now. Ed Martin just tweeted. He just said one word, important. And here's the headline. D.C. U.S. Attorney Ed Martin claws back $1 million in USAID overbilling case. There you go. $1 million back from USAID in overbilling. Look at that. Ed Martin's already clawed back $1 million. Let's confirm the guy. Can you imagine what he can do if he can do this as acting, right? Right, Leo?
Yeah, I mean, he's one of Trump's better picks, and he needs to definitely be confirmed. I mean, the guy has a solid record of doing that everywhere he's been. And so, yeah, couldn't be a better man for the job in D.C.
Yeah. Let's see here. He put out leaders of 764 arrested and charged. Leaders of 764 arrested and charged for operating global child exploitation enterprise. He put out this 2 days ago. The allegations in this case are not only disturbing, they are also every parent's nightmare. The number of victims allegedly exploited by these defendants and the depths of depravity are staggering. Justice demands that our response be swift in order to ensure public safety, hold the wrongdoers accountable, and bring the victims some sense of closure so they can heal, end quote. I had never heard of this group 764 until the other day. Have you ever heard of them, Leo?
No, I definitely had not heard of that. How many did they arrest?
Looks like they, it didn't say, just said leaders of the group have been arrested.
Okay. Well, that's more good news.
I do know this.
What's that?
I do know this. I know one of his big, I was told one of his big initiatives is going to be to get the crime under control in the nation's capital so that tourists can come there and enjoy our nation's capital. And particularly as we're headed toward the 250th anniversary of America in 2026, there's going to, I guess, be a big parade, a lot of patriotic bands and military displays, and just a big production for our 250th anniversary as a nation in 2026. And I'm told that one of his objectives by U.S. District Attorney acting, and we hope he's confirmed as permanent, is to clean up D.C. so Americans can go to the nation's capital and enjoy themselves without worrying about rampant crime. I mean, what is wrong with that, Leo? I mean, he should be confirmed. There should be a 100% confirmation for Ed Martin.
Well, I mean, as we saw during the J6 fiasco, they really don't want the common people in D.C. taking in the sites, participating in, their government. They want to be able to conduct business, as they call it, in private as much as possible. It seems to me, at least. I remember the day when people were welcomed in D.C., but now you go there and you're in danger of being arrested for, interfering in a public meeting or whatever the ridiculous charge was that they got a lot of those J6ers on. These were misdemeanor charges, but a lot of them ended up serving 2, 3, 4 years and getting really stiff sentences. So that, to me, marks a historic shift where the United States government, knowing how corrupt it is trying to isolate itself from the people, as opposed to conducting business and welcoming people to observe them while they're doing so. This was always called the people's house, right? And suddenly,
right,
when the people came to observe and hold their public officials accountable, the government turned against them and turned the police state, the evolving, very concerning police state, I might add, against the people and weaponized it against them. And so we have to be very careful, Brandon. Even some of the things President Trump is doing, I don't think he means them for evil, but as an example, this latest executive order, have you seen this executive order where he's talking about using the military for domestic law enforcement? I could see the Democrats getting a hold of, I could see them getting a hold of that in 4 years or 8 years, whenever they come back into power, and saying, President Trump actually signed this executive order, and now we're going to use it to start rounding up, MAGA type people and Trump supporters, Christians, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, never underestimate the left's ability to take something that's meant for good and then use it to justify something evil. I read that executive order. I went through it on the air the other day. I noticed it says non-lethal, using the military for training, military assets, I'm thinking they're probably talking about using surveillance, the ability to track people, the ability to find people, maybe satellites if they have to find people, using military assets and training for non-lethal purposes. And of course, I think what he's probably thinking of is we need help rounding up all these gangbangers in these sanctuary cities where the mayors are telling us they're not going to let their police go along. And the executive order said that if any of these elected officials are involved in any kind of behavior, and I don't know the exact quote, but I'm going to paraphrase it, any of their behavior was in violation of civil liberties, civil rights, and doing things to protect Americans from harm, then they can be prosecuted. So I think his objective is trying to use this in these blue states that have sanctuary cities, where he's trying to clean out gangbangers and criminal gangs and the Trans-Nicaragua gang and MS-13. But isn't that, again, what we have to be careful of? Our own common sense laws being used against us. And that's what's going on right now with Islam. Islam is using our constitutional freedoms to build mosques like crazy and scream religious freedom, freedom of speech for what they're doing. And, you know, you and I have been warning about this. You wrote the book, Stealth Invasion, you know, what, 2016, Leo?
Yep. Absolutely.
And now people are finally realizing, you know, people are waking up to Islam. But isn't Islam doing this? Aren't they using our laws against us to try to justify the building of these mosques and compounds and implement Sharia?
And then hiding behind freedom of religion, First Amendment. Exactly, Brandon. You're 100% correct. And I was writing about these compounds, not the ones that we're seeing going up now, the new ones, but this is not a new thing. We've had these Islamic compounds springing up in, I think it was more than 20 states at the time, back in 2016, where they were actually holding, you know, even military training exercises in some of these compounds. There was 2 here in my state of Georgia, I know for a fact. There was several in Texas. You know, they're pretty much, like I said, 20 states. This was back in 2015, 2016. So it's been a problem. But if they're just exercising their Second Amendment rights by training with firearms, and then they say they're exercising their First Amendment rights as part of Islam, it's very hard to come after them unless they commit a crime. And that's what we're seeing now, Brandon. You know, we hear a lot of talk, a lot of bluster by the governor of Texas, but what is he able to really do? And I think you mentioned on your show a week or so ago that some of the state legislators that you know have told you, you know, Brandon, we just really don't know what to do to rein these people in. That's because our Constitution grants people freedom of free exercise of religion and freedom of, you know, to own and use firearms as long as they're not being used to kill anyone or injure anyone. It's not against the law. And so I guess the problem, Brandon, is we shouldn't have brought these people in to begin with. And that was what I wrote my book, Stealth Invasion, for in 2016. Unfortunately, nobody really wanted to listen back in 2016. Now they're all talking about it and wondering, how did we get, you know, these big, huge enclaves in Texas, a red state? Well, Michigan was a red state too until Islam took over and started helping the Democrats win election after election. And so we see the same thing going on in Ohio. You know, very few people know that Columbus, Ohio area is like the 2nd or 3rd largest Somali Muslim enclave. And it's growing, and it's going to turn Ohio blue at some point, just like we saw happen in Michigan and Minnesota. Minnesota, even back in the 60s and 70s, was a swing state, right? I mean, it could go Democrat or Republican, but now it's solidly in the column for the Democrats. Even President Trump couldn't win Minnesota in his last 2 attempts, although he came closer than most other Republicans. If he can't win it, I don't think any Republican's going to win it anytime soon. And we owe a large part of that to the Somali enclaves in Minneapolis, St. Paul area that have been flooding into that state for more than 30 years, Brandon. This is not a recent phenomenon at all. It's even given us our first Somali Muslim refugee congresswoman, Ilhan Omar.
I just got an email today. I won't use her full name, but her name is Sue. Just got an email from Sue today from Minnesota. And she's lived there for so many years. And she was saying how the state just doesn't look the same. It's not the same. She's afraid, the crime, that all of these illegals coming in here, it is just destroyed this beautiful state of Minnesota. And I just said, I'm so sorry, because it is a beautiful state, and many of the people are wonderful, wonderful people there. Yeah. But right, these Democrats have allowed this in. They've invited it. They've funded it. The UN has funded it. And of course, the Biden regime with the UN, as Michael Yon, Todd Vinsman, the UN and the DHS under Biden funded this invasion. And here we go. And of course,
And the State Department, the U.S. State
I asked a
Department.
question. Right. I asked a question the other day too, Leo, that when I was going through this executive order on my radio show, I was reading from it. It almost makes me wonder what we're not being told. We know there are terror cells here, but it makes me wonder what the Trump administration knows and what it is they're trying to deal with without alarming the American people. But they know they need to be able to go in and take care of some things, particularly in the blue states that are, saying, no, you're not coming in here. These are sanctuary cities. You're not coming in here. And yet they know they need to go in there and deal with some potential serious problems. Again, I'm just asking a question. Does this administration know more than they're telling us? And that is this executive order, not just about getting gangbangers out or leaders of groups like 764, which is sex trafficking, but is it other things that they don't tell us about? That's very curious. I do want to ask you about a couple things we're going to talk about here with Leo Holman of leoholman.com and leoholman.substack.com. Leo, you have a new article out about the firing of Mike Walls. Some people were saying this was coming, just give it a few weeks and this will happen. And here we go. He's gone. And now Marco Rubio apparently is going to take over as National Security Advisor and Secretary of State at the same time for an extended period, it looks like. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm glad to see Mike Waltz go. I don't think he should have ever been appointed to that position to begin with. He's a neocon warmonger from way back. He does have, he's a decorated combat veteran, which I salute him for that. But he doesn't seem to have learned his lesson, like some military men, about the horrors of war. In fact, he was profiting off of the Afghanistan war. He was setting up businesses that were making profits, keeping that war going. It was to his advantage. And now we see him, there's a lot of information coming out of Washington that he was on the wrong side of the Russia-Ukraine war, that he was trying to, as David Pine was writing in his most recent article, he was trying to influence President Trump to keep that war going and keep escalating it, keep putting more pressure on Russia, increase the sanctions. And I'm glad that President Trump agreed to cut him loose. I'm not real happy to see him shifted over to the United Nations, but at least he's out of the White House and no longer able to be giving bad advice on matters of critical national security to the President of the United States. Now, Marco Rubio, he has a very similar track record to Mike Waltz. He also comes from the neocon camp of the Republican establishment. Never met a war that he wasn't really enthusiastic about getting involved in. He seems to be pretty loyal to President Trump so far from what we know in implementing the president's policies and not going overboard in trying to influence him, to keep wars going, maybe as aggressively at least as Mike Waltz was doing. So we do have to give him kudos for that. But I'm still very leery of him now being having the title not just of Secretary of State, but of National Security Advisor. I hope we can get somebody good into that National Security Council who is, a clear, honest, very committed America First type of leader and not a Marco Rubio type. Again, kudos to Rubio for putting his personal bias aside, at least as much as we can tell. But, when push comes to shove, a neocon is a neocon, right? Right, Brandon?
That's right. What did you make of my conversation with Jason Lewis last night? We were talking about war and these guys just want to go to war. And Jason and I were very much in agreement, weren't we?
Yeah, you really were. I was surprised to hear just how solid Jason Lewis is on foreign policy. I'd never heard him really expound his beliefs on the foreign policy aspect of policy before. But yeah, he is 100% committed to ending these endless wars. There's really no reason, no vital national security interest in the United States, why we should continue to be fomenting revolutions, wars, and uprisings around the world, using our CIA to get involved in the internal politics of other countries, blackmailing other countries with, you won't get this grant or that grant, or you won't get our continued military aid unless you do this, that, or the other. And all of these entangling alliances where we're at risk now. We are at major risk, folks, of being drawn into this war between Russia and Ukraine. I know there's not a lot said about that in the mainstream corporate media, but interviews like you did with Jason Lewis last night, that's what the American people are in dire need of hearing, Brandon. I think.
Well, he made a very interesting comment last night. He said, "Do these people not know how horrific war is?"
Yes.
They act like they don't. They don't act like they think they can do this with no blowback onto the homeland.
And we're dealing with, for goodness sakes, Russia here. We're not dealing with Iraq or Libya or Syria. We are provoking the world's largest owner of nuclear weapons. Let that sink in, folks. And they have modern, advanced systems to deliver those nuclear weapons to on an intercontinental basis, okay? Everybody talks about, oh, Russia could nuke Ukraine. Yeah, that's true. I doubt they'll do that because it's very close to Russia. And why would they want to risk the blowback of all of the fallout on their own land? But they have hypersonic delivery systems that could deliver a nuclear warhead to a European capital in Brussels, Berlin, Paris, London in a matter of 15 to 20 minutes with absolute pinprick accuracy. They've already tested these weapons out. And there's no defense currently that these Western NATO countries have against that. So why, on God's green earth, would any sane politician not want to sit down with Putin and honestly negotiate an end to this war? And yet we see the politicians in these European capitals are as gung-ho as ever in continuing this war, continuing to back that little creep Zelensky, that little slithery creep, who uses his male organ to play the piano. I mean, and has profited greatly and has $1 million mansions in multiple countries where he's skimming the profits off the top of the billions we've sent him. I don't understand it, Brandon.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, David Pine has put out tonight. We had David on right before you. David has put out that Marjorie Taylor Greene is right to ask why the administration is taking us to the verge of war with Iran and continuing Biden arms sales to Ukraine when Trump campaigned on ending Biden's war against Russia in Ukraine, which he now appears resigned to continue indefinitely. It appears increasingly likely that the Trump administration foreign policy has been usurped by his deep state neocon advisors like Rubio, Waltz, and Kellogg, as I warned it might back in November after their appointments were announced. We voted for a president who would end America's forever wars, but Trump appears to be heeding his neocon advisors to start new ones in Yemen and Iran and to keep fighting the one he inherited from Biden in Ukraine, despite the fact that doing so is making the U.S. much less safe and secure. I'm sure Biden is thrilled, as is Chinese President Xi Jinping. And he was responding to a tweet tonight about 7 hours ago by Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. I represent the base, she said, when I'm frustrated and upset over the direction of things. You better be clear, the base is not happy. I campaigned for no more foreign wars, and now we're supposedly on the verge of going to war with Iran. I don't think we should be bombing foreign countries on behalf of other foreign countries, especially when they have their own nuclear weapons and massive military strength. On top of that, now we're told that we have signed a deal for mineral rights in Ukraine in order to pay us back for hundreds of billions of dollars we gave Ukraine, and they used for money laundering, sold the weapons we gave them to our enemies, and their leader is a dictator who canceled elections, was involved in the first impeachment of Trump, and campaign for Biden. Didn't we learn our lesson when we went to war in Iraq and killed Saddam Hussein because of, quote, weapons of mass destruction, end quote? Did we ever find any? And did any of that oil over in the Middle East make us rich? The answer is no. We're 36 trillion in debt today. So why on earth would we go over and occupy Ukraine and spend an untold amount of future American taxpayer dollars defending and mining their minerals, as well as potentially putting American lives at risk and future war? Why don't we just mine our own rare earth minerals that are tied up on federal lands that the government confiscated years ago? I also campaigned on accountability for the communist and tyrannical acts made by the government during COVID, yet the COVID vaccine still has FDA approval, even though there are millions reported injuries and death, and this mRNA vaccine is known to have had horrific side effects and does not stop people from catching COVID. And to this day, it's still in the childhood vaccine schedule. Why on earth is this happening? Hasn't Big Pharma made enough billions and billions and billions of dollars on this lie? I also campaigned on accountability for all the lawfare that was waged against the American people in the past 4 years. What about all the people that were locked up in jail and the abuse that they went through? And when are those vicious attorneys and judges ever going to be held accountable for the lives they ruined? And I campaigned for an end to waste, fraud, and abuse of the American people's hard-earned tax dollars. But this is a long one. And then she said, what about election integrity? I'm skipping down. She talks about rogue judicial system, election integrity. This should be the most important issue that Republicans aggressively fight to protect, because without secure elections protecting from illegals voting and protections from stealing our votes, the American people have lost their power. When you're losing MTG, you're losing the base. That's what she just, this is a long tweet she just put out 6 hours ago, 7 hours ago.
I read the entire tweet a few hours ago. I sent it to our mutual friend, Tamara Scott, because I know she's plugged in pretty tightly with the Republican Party, more so than I am. And she asked, what do I think about it? And I told her, this is what I told Tamara. I said, I don't think that's the opinion of the majority of the base yet. I do believe that that is the opinion of the majority of the most informed Trump supporters. I'm actually very proud of MTG as a representative of the state of Georgia, where I live, for putting out that statement, because she is a thought leader and she is going to be read by the most informed members of Trump's base. And it's that small number of most informed. Let's face it, Brandon, most base people in the base of both the Republican and the Democrat Party are low information voters. That is just a fact. They go and they pull the lever for this party or that party, but they do not burden themselves to find out exactly what their leaders are doing once they get them elected. It is probably about 5 to 10% of Trump's base that knows half of what MTG put out in that tweet. And those are the ones who are the thought leaders, however. And I told Tamara Scott that give it time, and the opinions of the 5 to 10% of Trump's base are going to trickle down to the rest of the base, and the Republican Party is going to be in trouble come the midterm elections. So President Trump
That's what I'm afraid of.
He needs to take the bull by the horns right now and right this ship and get on people like RFK Jr. and say, you know what? COVID mRNA shots for toddlers and babies, I'm sorry, that's low-hanging fruit. Ban it tomorrow. Ban it tomorrow. We can let the adults make their own decision on this, but we should, and there is no way, shape, or form that we should have the COVID mRNA injections on the childhood vaccine schedule. I mean, with all the data we have right now, number one, telling us that little children don't get COVID, and when they do, it does not kill them. And, you know, it's like a cold, the sniffles. Why are we injecting children with DNA-altering genetic-based vaccines for a disease that's never even going to seriously harm them, let alone kill them? It makes no sense, and we have the data to prove it. So where is the ban? That's low-hanging fruit. I also agree with what she said about the minerals deal. this makes no sense. Number one, it's going to take 8 to 10, 12 years to get those minerals to mark here to the United States, to locate them, mine them, process them. This is going to take years. And guess what? The majority of the richest minerals in Ukraine are in Russian-held territory. So what does that say? Is President Trump going to fund this Ukraine war to try to take back those territories? Because if that's the goal, that isn't going to happen. We will be at war there for another decade at least, if that's the goal. So, yeah, there's a lot of strange things going on. MTG, I'm very proud of her. She pointed them all out. It's not too late for Trump to right the ship, but time is slipping by.
Well said, Leo. Let's switch to my conversation last night with Patrick Wood about the orb, Sam Altman's orb, and I guess the race is on between Sam Altman and Elon Musk. What did you make of our conversation where we're talking about we may get to a point where Republicans, Democrats, independents, a lot of them say, you know what, I'm done with all the politicians. I mean, you look at the Menendez, what's his name, Mendez or whatever, from New Jersey, just sent off the senator. Mendez sent off to U.S. senator, sent off to jail for fraud or whatever he was accused of. His wife, I think, as well. You've got the problems we had with Santos, and you can just go on and on about these guys. You know, you remember the Keating 7 or however many it was. I think John McCain was caught up in that. At what point does the population have put on their mind the idea that none of this is working? Nobody likes most of these politicians, and even if some people like some of them, the majority of them don't. They're either going in there like Pelosi and coming out multi-millionaires. I mean, why do we need this? Let's just go to let AI run it. I mean, that's what we were talking about. I'm not saying that's what I'm in favor of, but we were talking last night about that. You caught that. What were your thoughts on our conversation?
Yeah, I thought that was a very prescient conversation. You asked him good questions, and his answers really made me think that, you know, maybe we don't need a major catastrophic event like World War III or Civil War before we can move, incrementally at least towards this technocratic beast system that he and I and others have been warning the American people about for well on a decade for myself, and probably, at least twice that long for Patrick. You think about it, Brandon, and he mentioned something that caught my attention, that, people are getting fed up with the political system and the leaders, the faces of the political system. And I think it was you who mentioned last night that, politics seems to be all about the personalities, right? And it seems like they're driving these wedge issues with these very strong and with these personalities that elicit very strong emotions. Either you love them or you hate them. They're very polarizing. When President Biden delivered that red speech, and they called it the red speech because he had those red lights shining on him, and he was flanked by the U.S. Marines, and he was saying how Trump supporters basically were pieces of trash and dangers to our democracy, and he was fed up with us for not getting the vaccines and all of this, that, and the other. The Democrats were fine with that. That was music to their ears, right? Of course, it rankled our side, and it was like throwing acid in our eyes. I mean, and now we see the same thing. Trump is a very bombastic leader. We like a lot of what he does and half of what he says, but, the Democrats, they have the same reaction to him that we had to Biden. You can say maybe they're twisting what President Trump means, but President Trump does make a lot of vague and really controversial statements. There's no doubt about that.
Like running again in 2028.
Yes, right. Yes, running for a third term. He said recently that the first term he ruled America, but in his second term he not only rules America, but he rules the world. He said that just a few days ago. He said that this was a joke, but the media takes it and they twist it and they make it sound like it's him telling, maybe, how some people make a point with humor, but you wonder if they're not not serious. Well,
like he wants to be the Pope. He said he'd love to have the job of being the Pope, right?
That's what I'm getting at. Yes. He said he would make a great Pope. And so the media now takes that and spins it and says, this guy, he wants to be a dictator. And not only that, he wants to be Pope as well. So, yeah, I mean, if President Trump, I know he loves to troll his enemies, but
he really does.
And it's fun to watch.
Did you see it, by the way, did you see the hats on the desk? The hats on the cabinet table yesterday?
Yes.
Gulf of America.
Right.
You're right. He trolls these people. But the point is that
the cult of personality on both sides, right? And you pointed that out last night. How at some point that it's going to, the American people are getting very weary of that. And at some point, as Patrick then said, it might just be better for us all if we just let AI run everything. We wouldn't have to deal with these personalities that are so controversial and polarizing and downright cultish in some ways.
Yeah, and you can see, and Patrick said, you can really see the, what is it, Generation Z? I'm not even sure. I can't keep up with all these, but I think Generation Z would be for that, right? The millennials and Generation Z would all be for that. I mean, they're born with computers, right?
100%. I mean, to us, this transition to AI is a big, major deal. And we are approaching it with much trepidation. But you're exactly right. These younger generations, it's just a very natural thing for them to flow with something like the orb that, oh my gosh, I wrote about that, by the way, about 5 or 6 months ago. And now I see, I hadn't heard that much about it. And then Patrick and you bring it up again last night, and he's making major headway with it. And he's got, you know what I think all it would take to really drive that thing forward is to get celebrities, movie stars, music stars, major athletes to do commercials talking about how wonderful the orb is. And I guarantee you the younger generation will flock to go sign up for it, Brandon.
And they're paying them to do it, right? You heard that last night. They're paying them to do it. So here's some money. Give me your biometrics. I want to make one point real clear to our audience before we go to some of your articles, particularly a Supreme Court article on parental authority. And what is the court going to say about parents that are saying, I don't want my kids educated in the LGBTQ lifestyle. I don't want them being taught basically pornography because some educators are saying, I'm sorry, you don't get to make that decision. I think some courts are saying, I'm sorry, the teacher is the teacher, you're the parent, and you don't get to make that decision. So I want to get to that article you wrote. But before I do, I'll make something really clear. One of our dear, long-time listeners said, emailed me and said, I love what you guys do. I'm just a little concerned about this AI project you've been talking about. Isn't that dangerous? And so I explained, I said, use the word AI, but let me be very clear, folks, because Patrick and I have talked about this. It's not artificial, and it's not intelligence. It's not intelligent. It is. I have friends and even a family member that was working back in the 60s all through the 70s and into the 80s and 90s and early 2000s with software programs and writing programs that made models and statistics and would put out trends for tracking certain commodities and different things. All they were doing is putting in the data and then and then building the models, and then it would run the data and spit out reports. And they could even get it to make projections or things based on what they put in. And some of these people said to me, like Patrick has said, I think at one of our Worldview weekends in the Ozarks last year, the world of artificial intelligence is new, but that's That's not a word, or those are not two words that we can use to describe everything everyone is doing. While we may call it artificial intelligence, it's really just a gigantic supercomputer that we have, powerful servers with chips that have crawled over our 35 years of radio shows, TV shows, ebooks, audiobooks, whatever, and transcribed them and then tagged them so we can then ask that computer to find it. It's like going to the card deck. When we grew up without the computers in the library, you'd go to the card deck and find the book you wanted and then use that to find the book. And that's what the computer's doing. It's finding the data. So we're not asking
like Nexus Lexus.
That's right. We're not asking the computer to give us its theological opinion. We're not asking the computer to analyze the Bible and tell us how we should think about it. No, that's not what we're doing. We're not programming it to do those things. We're programming it to simply help us find thousands and thousands, 60,000 MP4s, MP3s, 60,000 MP3s, 40,000 MP4s to find this stuff, transcribe it, and then help us find it. Where Leo Holman said this. Where did he say that? I want to play that audio. Where did Peter Price say this? Now, can it help us then find every time we've ever referenced a Bible verse? Yep. And then give me the ability to put that into the bottom of a Bible study note where Patrick Woods explained this verse, or Andy Woods explained this verse, or I explained this about Revelation 13, or the false prophet, or Dr. John Wickham, or Dr. Rob Lindstedt. But again, all we're doing is asking it to take what we put into it and then organize it for us in a certain format. So I want to say that because when people use the term artificial intelligence, we got to ask them, well, what do you mean by that? We're not doing biometrics. We're not putting lots and lots of data in there from every source under the sun and then asking it to tell us what it thinks. Ours is quarantined and coming from a Christian conservative biblical worldview. But would you agree with me, Leo? We've got to be careful not to be afraid of the great technology, but we have to understand that people use phrases like AI. Not all AI is the same. Would you agree?
I'm not the most qualified person to answer that, but from hearing you explain it and hearing Patrick explain it, I actually asked Patrick, what is Brannon doing with the AI? Is it something along the lines of? It sounds like I said the way Brannon has described it, that it's along the lines of Nexus Lexus. Am I right? And Patrick said that's not that is actually a fair comparison. That it's self-contained, that it's not opened up to the outside for some sort of nefarious, outside operators to invade and start giving their opinion on different articles or different topics. It's totally within the Worldview Weekend system, as he explained it to me, as you've explained it on the air. So, I'm no expert, like I said, but, people I trust tell me that this is a safe and efficient use of it and not in danger of being somehow corrupted by the likes of, Yuval Harari or Curtis Yarvin or George Soros, So, yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty safe scenario.
And we could say, for instance, like I was telling the audience the other night, we could say if I've done 11 hours on Hamas, we could tell it, give me a 2,000-word article on Hamas based on what I said in 11 hours. It would simply just simply streamline it. I mean, there are already programs out there, by the way, that do this and have been out there for probably 10 plus years, where if you have a big article, and you just want the big bullet points in that article, I know that Logos Bible Software, one of their guys showed me that on the air one night. He said, for instance, take this. And the intelligence community apparently was using this kind of software. The intelligence community has a lot of reports to go through. They don't want to sit there and read a 50-page report. So they put it through a piece of software that somehow can tell you these are the 5 or 6 major bullet points and a cliff note of that article and do it in seconds. Well, that's what you're talking about. You're not talking about it writing something. You're talking about it just taking my words or Leo's words and now condensing it in. So we can tell it, give me a 2,000-word article on Hamas based on my 11 hours of talking about it in one series I've done, right? They would do that. But what's really cool, and this is where it starts replacing the need to hire more and more and more people so we can put out more education content. We're going to be able to likely get where we tell it, now give me a 10-minute, 15-minute short documentary on Hamas based on what I've said, and then it writes that into a script with a voiceover and then music that we've licensed, and it, in a matter of seconds can compose a 10-minute short-form documentary, but it's all based on my content. It's not anything coming outside of our database that's quarantined off. So you can see where that's very educational for our audience.
And just for the sake of argument, even if it did try to do that, you would recognize it. You would say, wait a minute, that's nothing I said. and
that's right. Exactly. Well, that's exactly right. Yep.
So, yeah.
And then if it did something like that, we would be able to go back in and tell it and put it parameters and restrictions. We can put in parameters and restrictions, right? We already have. I'll give you an example. I'm not a Calvinist, okay? I am not a Calvinist. I believe in, I'm not an Arminian. I'm not into Arminianism. I'm not into Calvinism. I'm a biblicist, right? I'm a biblicist. But we have already told the program, don't grab anything that anyone has said that's promoting it. If someone is critiquing it, that's fine. But don't grab any interviews I've done with, and I've named 3 or 4 people that I've interviewed over the years. Do not grab their interviews and promote their theology. So we can put restrictions. So if we see it in any way, writing something or saying something because it got conflicting information by someone we were talking with, we can correct it and tell it, don't ever say that, or don't ever produce that, or block that guy's interview out. We were debating with him. We were not agreeing with him. So we have the ability to test it and do that. And so I just want to make that clear, because I don't think everybody understands that there are. I'll tell you one thing. Look at all the radio shows and TV shows we do, okay? I could have a full-time staff person writing a description for every radio show and TV show. That would be pretty much a full-time job.
Yeah.
AI in the next couple of weeks is going to write a short description of every radio show and TV show just based on reading the transcript it produces of each show, and then it will put out a 2-paragraph description of that show, which obviously we'll be monitoring and checking it. But it'll do that automatically, which pretty quick, it's going to be doing the work of 2 or 3 people that frankly, we don't have the budget to hire 2 or 3 people to do that. So our audience is going to go, wow, he's really getting his information here so organized. We just started putting up, what, Logan, a week ago? I just lost that light. We just started putting up a week ago. Every MP4 that we do, every TV show we do, is now being put up as an MP3 at Worldview Radio. So our system is now automatically taking all of our TV shows and converting it into a radio podcast at worldviewradio.com. Then, in the next couple of weeks, it'll start writing a description of each conversation we've had, and we won't have to do it. Which again, we don't have this. We don't have the budget to bring in another 2 people to do this, to do that. So we've been limited in what we can even offer to our audience. But this powerful computer will do that for us based on our words, not anything outside. It's all quarantined. So you see how you can offer more services, more education, more programming, and it doesn't break our budget because we're not hiring a person to do it. The computer's doing it for us. I think that's pretty cool, don't you?
Well, yeah, anytime that you can expand your services and your offerings without having to, expand your budget, right? That's a good thing.
Yeah. Let's switch now to the Supreme Court. This case before the Supreme Court that was argued the other day. Tell our audience what it's about. It's a very important case for religious liberty and most of all parental authority, which I think are tied together.
Yeah, basically you have Montgomery County, Maryland, which is the largest school district in the state of Maryland, wanting to introduce in English language courses stories that incorporate LGBTQ characters for elementary school students. We're talking first graders, second, third, and fourth graders. Let me see if I can get an example or two for you. Liberty Counsel put out a very detailed press release on this. It's all about gender and sexuality for children, instructing children through the use of what? Stories. One book used for very young children is called Pride Puppy, and it tells the story of a puppy that gets lost during a pride parade, a gay pride parade. Another book tells the story of a girl attending her uncle's same-sex wedding. Okay? So you can see how they're trying to infiltrate and influence the minds. This is mind control at a very young age.
Absolutely.
Trying to propagandize and indoctrinate children to accept as normal something that certain people of certain religious backgrounds would find highly objectionable. And so we had three families are suing the Montgomery County School District on the basis of freedom of religion. One is Ukrainian Orthodox, the other is Catholic, and the other is Muslim. So you have three different religious background parents here suing the school district. And believe it or not, Brandon, this case has already passed through 2 federal courts, district and circuit levels, where they sided with the school district, saying it's perfectly okay to introduce these outlandish, salacious storybooks to your toddlers and elementary school kids, and the parents don't even have to be notified of it by the school district. So therefore, the parents don't have the opportunity to opt their children out of these ridiculous classroom instructions where they're incorporating this material. And so 2 courts have already sided in favor of the school district, and now it's going to the Supreme Court, Brandon, and we should have a decision on that in June or July.
And how do you think the courts are going to rule? Did you hear the arguments to give you any idea?
Yeah, with the exception of Ketanji Brown, whatever her name is, it seemed like most of the justices were, if you look at their line of questioning, you can never tell 100% by just listening to their questions, but they gave the indication that they were going to side against the school district of Montgomery County and in favor of the parents and parental authority. And it's interesting that this is the second major case that I've reported on in the month of April that involves a landmark issue of parental authority. The other one was the Massachusetts couple who opted their 5 children out of getting certain vaccines that are on the childhood vaccine schedule, including a 9-month-old baby that they wanted to get vaccinated. Their pediatrician wanted to vaccinate against the sexually spread disease. I don't remember what they call that particular vaccine.
Hepatitis B.
Yes, that's it. And because they rejected that vaccine, the pediatrician reported them to Child and Social Services, saying that they were guilty of neglect, childhood neglect. And all of a sudden, the state comes and takes all 5 of their children, not just the 9-month-old, but all 5 of them. And well, they made an attempt, already visited the house one time with the intention of taking the children. And so the parents took the children and left for Texas. They went from Massachusetts to Texas, and they were charged after being found there with kidnapping their own children from the state of Massachusetts. I kid you not. and this one is going through the court system as well. They have been criminally charged for trying to protect their children from that vaccine.
It's pitiful. Well, let's pray we get a good ruling from the Supreme Court. All right, as we get ready to wrap here tonight, Leo, I'm sure by now you have heard, here is Michael Schellenberger. Since World War II, Germany's liberal democracy has held. Now it's on the brink. The government censors, spies on, and persecutes critics. And today, it laid the groundwork to ban the nation's most popular political party, the AfD. My exclusive interview with one of its leaders, Marco Rubio, tweeted out, Germany just gave its spy agency new powers to surveil the opposition. That's not democracy. It's tyranny in disguise. What is truly extremist is not the popular AfD, which took second in the recent election, but rather the establishment's deadly open border immigration policies that the AfD opposes. Germany should reverse course. Now, here's another example of where I've been very impressed with Marco Rubio since he became Secretary of State with some of his public comments as well as his statements. This is one of them where I'm thankful he's taking a stand on this. He gets this open border thing, which is, of course, right up our alley and yours with your book, Stealth Invasion. J.D. Vance says the AfD is the most popular party in Germany and by far the most representative of East Germany. Now the bureaucrats try to destroy it. The West tore down the Berlin Wall together, and it has been rebuilt, not by the Soviets or the Russians, but by the German establishment. I try to be careful not to make blanket statements, and I try to be careful to not let my frustration cause me to say more than I should, because I know there's some wonderful people in Germany. I do. But I've always felt that country never learned its lesson. I always felt that, I think the people probably on the East German side did, but I always wondered if some of the people on the West German side, did they never really learn their lessons from the experiences with the Nazis and then with the Soviets? I would hope that people on the East German side learned their lesson, after the Berlin Wall went up. But did West Germany, that part of the population and the history and heritage of those people not looking into what happened to East Germany, not learn their lesson? What I've watched in the last few years, I'm like, you would think you guys would be the most sensitive people when it comes to fascism, and yet you're letting the Muslims who partnered with Hitler, the Muslim Brotherhood, the Grand Mufti of Palestine, you guys in Europe are bending over backwards for these people. Do you really want to march back to those days? Am I wrong in wondering this? And do you ever look at them and go, were they ever able to cleanse this out of their cultural stream, or what's the deal?
I really think the problem in Germany, and I have a little bit of experience with that country because I have some cousins and family members who still live there. My dad is German, and his parents immigrated from Germany, so his generation on that side of my family is first generation American, and some of his family's still over there. In a lot of ways, Brandon, they got too comfortable. There's too many government perks. They have too many vacations. They can retire at an early age. They have very high wages. And they go on a lot of vacations. And when you know that your bread is buttered on the...
So apathy.
Yes.
Apathy. And isn't that what always... being passive and apathetic?
Yes. And all of a sudden you lose that watchdog attitude over your government, and the elites sort of hijack the government. And I don't think most of the German people are in support of what their government is doing right now. We know that's the truth because of the popularity of the AfD party over there right now. But do they have the gumption and the fortitude at this point to actually do what would be necessary to reclaim their government from those elites That's another question. And we'll see what happens, because there is no way they should be sitting pat, sitting down, and standing down when their government just banned the main opposition party.
And, if we're not careful, that can come to America, right?
Yeah. Absolutely, Brandon. It
almost happened under Biden. It almost happened under Biden, right? Yeah, I mean, you already described it. His red light speech. If you're MAGA, if you're for closed borders, if you're against the shot, I mean, he was targeting his political enemies like that.
100%. I mean, we've been right up to the brink of going the same route as the Western Europeans, Brandon. And we've been pulled back from the brink for a bit. But again, people get too comfortable. They think one man, Donald Trump's going to fix it all. And, that's just not possible. He will fix about, 10 or 15% of the problem, and then he's out of office in 4 years. And the other side can reclaim very quickly whatever Donald Trump has done to stem the tide. We saw it with Biden. On day one, it seemed like everything changed, everything reversed, and we were in a worse position than we were even before Trump, right? Under Barack Obama. When Joe Biden took over, that was the Barack Obama administration on steroids. And I'm very afraid that the same thing's going to happen this time around when the Democrats get back in office, because Congress is asleep at the switch and not willing to codify any of these executive orders that President Trump has signed. It will be very easy to undo them on day one of the next Democrat administration.
Yep, and they're not going after these rogue judges.
Right. And so,
I mean, Congress ought to feel like a rug. I mean, they just get walked over. I mean, they're becoming irrelevant, which maybe that's again the goal. Maybe the goal is for them to become irrelevant. So people say, well, let's just get rid of all of them, let them all retire and go to AI.
100%, Brandon. And then you have technocracy, which if we think communism, soft communism like we had under Joe Biden is bad, wait till the technocrats get in power.
Oh, yeah. If they put this into power, guess who won't be traveling freely across the country like we're doing now? We won't.
Right.
Our digits would be turned off. We wouldn't be allowed. I mean, they would say, we're not letting you travel. We're not giving you filming permits and letting you travel. They're not even going to let our network be on the air.
What we saw, Brandon, during COVID in 2021 with 10 major cities implementing vaccine passports, where they claim to have the authority to shut people out of commercial enterprises in an entire major U.S. city because they did not get a certain medical treatment. That was a beta test for the technocracy that they have planned. It is the beast system that they have planned, Brandon. And technocracy is going to unlock the beast system. This is what we have to be concerned about. And it's unfortunately there's as many Republicans as Democrats who are on board with this technocratic surveillance state, and having a camera on every corner, and having a speaker and a camera and a high resolution photo in real time so law enforcement can stop the crime before it happens. Yeah. Like the movie Minority Report, how did that work out? It's not a good idea. We need to go back to the sound American principle of individual freedom, where the government is afraid of the people and not the people afraid of the government.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Leo, we love you. You're a great part of our team. We get so many kind emails and letters, and people just so thankful that you're on our team. We're thankful you're on our team. LeoHolman.com, LeoHolman.com, and then, of course, check out LeoHolman.substack.com, LeoHolman.substack.com. Now, Leo, I'm sure we'll be checking in with you because we're going to keep cranking out Brandon House Live through the week, so I'm sure we'll be checking in with you from our nation's capital as we're buzzing down the road that way now. So we'll be checking in with you throughout the week.
Looking forward to it next week, Brandon. Have a good, safe trip, and we'll keep in touch.
Thank you, Leo. Leo Holman checking in. Remember his website, leoholman.com, leoholman.substack.com. All right, folks, what a great program. We're cranking it out from the road. Now, look, most of your talk show hosts would have used this as an excuse to take the night off and just maybe, I don't know, watch TV on the motor coach here, listen to a podcast, listen to some music. Not us. I put on a suit. We got on the motor coach, put on a suit, and Logan's sitting over there producing the show. Dolly is here with us. The other dogs are here with us. They're back there. We decided to keep them back there so we could do the show. But here we are. We're going forward, folks, and we are going to be producing a lot of content for you, and we'll be live a lot of the week, so you're not going to miss out. I'm going to try not to avoid being on. I'm going to try to avoid missing the show. I'm going to try to avoid that. I think we can keep the show going. Don't you think we keep the show going for the most part, Logan? Yeah, I think so too. We might tape some stuff and bring you some stuff we're doing and bring that to you, but I'll try to come on and set it up, if not be live. All right. So there you go. All right. Please go to Worldview Foundation. What's that, Logan? Go to Worldview. Yeah. Go to well, it's light out right now, so we are taping this tonight though. It's that's the time that I'm taping it. It's 7:11. 7:11, Logan. We decided to tape this one tonight, but there you go. WorldviewFoundation.com. WorldviewFoundation.com. Please consider going there now. WorldviewFoundation.com. So yes, we taped this one tonight, but barely, because we're about to wrap this one up, and then the show's going to start. So, and that may be what we do a few times in D.C. We may do that a few times in D.C. so we can have light to film outside the nation's capital and whatnot, and then bring it to you. But I want to probably keep cranking out fresh content, all right? So there you go. So please, go now, will you? WorldviewFoundation.com, WorldviewFoundation.com. You'll also find our mailing address there if you prefer to support us through the mail. Another way you can support us, of course, is by going to WorldviewTube.com/sponsors. Worldview Tube. Are you still doing lower thirds? So you're doing lower thirds and everything as we go down the road. Amazing. I don't have a monitor here. I know at home I do. Back in the studio I do. So look at he's producing us live. Wow. Go to WorldviewTube.com. Look at that. He just showed me the screen. He turned his computer around. He's doing all this off of the laptop. WorldviewTube.com/sponsors. Yeah, we're doing Bella Grace from the road. Let's see. Do I have it over here? Let's see here. Oh, yes. Look at this. Yes. What do we got here? Bella Grace, Numi. Look at this right here. Gatatana. We just lost one of our lights, didn't we? Look at that. Look at that, folks. Miss Melissa is making sure we got our Gatatana on the road. I can't do without that. Libby. What's my dog's name? Dolly. Can't do without that. I always call my kids by my dog's name, and my dog's by my kids' names. Bella Grace, look at that. We brought a nice big box of Bella Grace with us, because I got to have plenty of energy. We brought several bottles of Numi. So, folks, we're not kidding when we tell you we take this stuff, all three of them, every day, and we're very serious about it. Please go now to worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Get your subscription of all these. All three of these you should have a subscription for, so they show up automatically, and you don't have to worry about missing them, not having them. Get a subscription of all three of these. It's really the trifecta, the power of the three together. They work so well together. The Bella Grace, the Numi, the Gatatana. Again, it's a great way to support your health and us at the same time. So please check out that at worldviewtube.com/sponsors. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. All right, we're going to be filming some stuff tomorrow and loading it up to the website, worldviewtube.com. So after tomorrow, sometime in the late afternoon, early evening, we'll be loading some stuff, and you're going to find out where we first stopped. We're making a stop between the Mid-South, Memphis area, and D.C. And by tomorrow, late afternoon, early evening, you can go to worldviewtube.com, and I will provide you with a report of what we were filming and what you guys are in store for in the coming days when we get back and can post-edit some of what we're going to be doing tomorrow. You're going to love it. You're going to eat it up. You're going to say, you guys are really going to some cool places and showing us some cool things. And we are. I've never seen some of these places before, or these historic sites. I want to see. You're going to love it. All right. So thanks again for your prayers of safety, and pray that no illegals who cannot read the road signs run over and kill us. Right, Logan?
Yeah.
Oh, bye. Yeah, well, did you see some of the truckers are being pulled over and asked if you can read this?
Yeah.
Did you see the one trucker complaining about it? He was complaining about it. An American trucker. Oh, no. They were asking people to write English and speak.
They had been handcuffed.
It said they were handcuffing some of them. Yeah, I bet some of them had warrants. Who knows what? I don't know. But, God forbid the truckers know how to speak English and read. But yeah, pray for our safety that none of the illegals that can't read English or speak it run over us, because we've been tracking that with the American truckers. Go to American truckers on their X page. It's pitiful. It's sad. So thanks to President Trump for that executive order, which apparently is already in action. Thank you, Sean Duffy, Secretary of Transportation. All right. So pray for our safe travel, providential meetings and interviews that we're still trying to set up, and great weather. Pray for the weather. We're hearing there may be a little rain. Logan's like, I better get some plastic bags for our cameras. Well, I said, let's have our audience pray that we have some sunny days. So pray for that as well. All right. All right. Thanks, guys, for being with us. Hope you have a great night. Talk to you tomorrow. We'll record some stuff, put it up so you can find it late tomorrow afternoon, early evening, worldviewtube.com. Till next time, I'm Brandon House. May God save America. Take care.
Tonight on the Worldview Report, Steve Kirsch analyzes new Pfizer shot data supplied by the state of Florida to come up with a stunning figure for the number of Americans